yesterday we learned that Chana was the first person to call Hashem Tzivakos. And she mentions her prayer from all your tzivei tzivakos that you created. Is it hard for you to give me one son? And now I'm going to read it inside. Vatidar neder. We're going to start at the 2 dots. It's, I guess, about 15, maybe 18 lines from the top of the page. 2 dots. Vatidar neder vatoimar. And she made a promise and she said, Hashem tzivakos. Hashem, the God of legions. So the first few lines I think we did yesterday, but I'm just going to go over it. From the time that Hashem created his world, no one called Hashem Tzivakos until Chana came and called Hashem Tzivakos. Now, the Gemara in Shavuos mentions that there are 7 names of Hashem that you're not allowed to erase. And one of those names is Tzivakos. Now, the word tzava could mean an army. And there's a term, Tzivais Hashem, the army of Hashem, a program that a lot of kids are part of. The word Tzivais is not Hashem's name, but Tzivakos would be. If it's pronounced that way, then that would be Hashem's name. And you officially, it would be similar to other names of Hashem, Elokim, Elokeinu, and Tzivakos. Yes, Susan.
So what army? I don't understand. Who is Hashem's army besides the Jews?
That's it. That's the answer.
We are Hashem's army, but I'm just saying the word, you have to know that it doesn't, similar to the word Hashem, Adon means master. So you could, there are other forms of that word that's not Hashem's name, but like my master, Adoni, my master, when you're speaking to someone who's, you want to give him a little more respect, you say Adoni, my master. But that's a similar, very similar to Hashem's name, but it's allowed. So I'm just sharing with you the word here, Tzivakos. I'm pronouncing it in a way that's a little different than it's spelled because it's considered Hashem's name, and definitely it shouldn't be erased. And
but are we allowed to use that name, Tzivakos?
No, I'm adding the kuf, Tzivakos. So I'm switching it a drop, similar to the way we say Elokeinu. We switch it a drop so that we're allowed to use it, so it's not considered in vain.
Okay.
That was my question. Why are you adding the kuf?
Yeah. So now we've answered it.
Now I know, yeah.
Terem Yikra Vani Ana. Before you asked, I already answered it. Yeah. So Chana was the first one to call Hashem Tzivakos. Now the Gemara wants to know, why did Chana call Hashem Tzivakos? So Amra Chana L'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chana said before Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalaylam, Master of the universe, Mikol Tzivei Tzivakos Shabarasa, from all the legions that you created by Lamecha in your world, Kosha Be'einecha, is it hard in your eyes, Shetiten Li Ben Echad, that you could give me one son? You got so much. You created so much. So that's why she used this word Tzivakos, because it was emphasizing the numerous legions that Hashem has created in the world. And what is she asking for? One son. That's all she's asking for. Is it hard for you to give me one son? That was why she used the name Tzivakos. Yes, Susan.
Isn't that a kind of a nasty way to when you translate it? You couldn't have in other words, not very nice to God, saying, in that, the way you have translated it, it says, it's kind of like not a nice.
It's a complaint.
Yes, a complaint. Exactly. You did all this, but couldn't you? That's not nice. I mean, it's not,
No, I think it's a cultural difference that you have to relate to. I don't think she's asking Hashem in different ways, different terms, different maybe you're not used to using that type of a request
I guess not.
form because of the culture that that we live in. But she's simply
saying-
asking Hashem, when you're
She's
dealing
saying,
with
you
it,
created so many people, can't you add one for me?
right?
That's what she's
It's a
saying.
request. It's a form of request, So Mashal Lamaha Dover Daima, the Gemara gives a parable. What is this similar to? Lamelach Basar Vadam, a king of flesh and blood. She'also Suda Lavadav, he made a party, a meal for his servants. Ba'ani Echad, and there was a poor man that came. Ba'amar ala Pesach. He stood by the door. Amar Lahem, he told the people, the soldiers, the official, the officers, Amar Lahem, Tenuli Prusa Achas, give me one piece of bread.
One slice.
One slice. V'layashkichu alav, and they did not look at him. Dachak v'nichnas, he pushed himself and entered. Squeezed himself and entered. Eitzel HaMelech, by the king. Amar Lei, and he said, Adoini HaMelech, master, the king. Mikol Suda Shal Sisa, from all this meal that you made. Kasha Beinecha, Litali Prusa Achas, is it hard for you to give me one prusa, one slice? And that is what Chana did. And what she was expressing to Hashem is that for me, this is huge. But for you, for me, you'll save my life. For you, what is it? What is a big deal? It's one little slice. It's like nothing. And then the Gemara will now discuss.
Like substance out of it, a lot of side stepping.
The Gemara will now discuss other verses that another verse that Chana said. The next verse that she says, Imra'oi Tira. If you surely see. And this verse, let me read it. Again, we learned it in the book of Samuel. She made a promise and she said, Hashem tzivakos imra'oi tira ba'ani amasecha. If you surely see the poverty of your maidservant, uzchartani, and you remember me, v'leitishkachas amasecha, and you're not going to forget your maidservant, v'nasata la'amoscha, and you will give your maidservant zera anoshim, a child, unasativ la'Hashem, and I will give him to Hashem, Kol Yemei Chai, of all the days of his life, Umayra Loyala al Roshai, and he will never bring a razor upon his head. And that's what she promised, that if Hashem sees her plight, if he gives her a child, she will donate him to Hashem. Now, the Gemara is going to explain, what is this Imra'oi Tira, if you will surely see? Why does it use a double language? So the Gemara explains a very interesting thing here. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Amra Chana l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chana said before Hashem, Rabbeinu Yishal Olam, master of the universe, Imra'a mutav, if you see my situation, my suffering, my pain, great, mutav, good. Ve'im lav, and if not, then tira. So ra'ai is one point. If you see me, if you see good. Tira, if not, then you will see something that I'm going to do. Eleich, I will go. V'yastater, and I will go into a secluded place. Estater means from the word seser. I will enter a secluded area. Bifnei Elkanah Baili, in front of my husband Elkanah. V'kivan demistatarna, And since I enter with a foreign man into a secluded area, mashkuli mesaita, they will give me to drink saita water. V'i'ata oisa teirascha plaster, and you will not make your Torah false. Shenemar, as it says, v'niksa, and she will be clean. V'nizra zera, and she will have a child. So what this means is that Chana is doing a little trick to force a child. What is her trick? Well, the law is, according to one of the explanations of what happens to a Saita person. A Saita means a woman who her husband warns, it's called a kinoi. He gives a warning that the husband warns his wife and says, do not seclude yourself with this man. And she then transgresses that warning, and she goes and hangs out with this other man, and the husband finds out about it, and there's witnesses that they secluded themselves. They were secluded, and the husband doesn't know if his wife had relations or if they were just secluded and had some meeting. And the husband takes the wife to the Beis Hamikdash, and he gives her a certain drink that has Hashem's name erased in it, has verses erased in it, and this water that has letters erased from the holy verses are erased into this water. She drinks from it, and it says if she actually sinned, her body will blow up and she will die. If she didn't sin, then she will actually become pregnant. If she would never had children, she will have children. If she had ugly children, she will have beautiful children. If she had, it says like a few examples. I forget the term, but it's if she had dark children, she'll have white children. Yeah, whatever it was, she will have. If she gave birth in pain, now she'll give birth peace. If she had short children, she'll have long children. And so that is the blessing for this woman who drinks the Saita water, and she really is innocent, so she gets a blessing. So the Saita water has the power, number one, to destroy a woman who sinned, and it becomes like a medicine. It's almost like medicine. Medicine is healthy for people who need it, and it's dangerous for someone who doesn't need it. That's what this Saita water is. It brings blessing for someone who's healthy, who is innocent, and it brings a curse on a person who sinned. Yes, Susan.
Where is this Saita water? What is it and where is it? How did she get this?
Okay, so it's in the Beis Hamikdash. This was one of the things that was done in the Beis Hamikdash. Nowadays, we don't have it, because if they had it, it'd be a very special commodity now. But they don't. It's not available now, and therefore a person has to be careful not to warn their wife, because they could get themselves into a problem where they will not be able to live with their spouse if they warn her, and then there's no Saita water, because until she drinks the Saita water, he's not allowed to have relations with her. So a person could create a big problem. Nowadays we don't have the Saita water. It was in the Beis Hamikdash in the temple. And this water, they would on the spot, they would write a verse and dip it into the water, and it was done there in the Beis Hamikdash. The kohen was done. they had to bring a sacrifice. There was a certain mincha offering,
Now I
a
understand.
sacrificial offering that
Oh,
was with animal food. That's to make her feel low and give her that feeling that she did an act that's an animal act, an animalistic act, and therefore we give her barley. It's a sacrifice that's barley, and ultimately, and then she drinks this water, and then everyone finds out either she sinned
then,
or she's innocent.
or she's in.
So that's the law. Now Chana says, you know what? I have a little trick. I know how to have a child. Hashem, you didn't give me a child, but I have a trick. I can manipulate the system. I will make my husband get nervous that I'm hanging out with a man. He's going to warn me. Then I'm going to go and make sure there's witnesses nearby, and I'm going to go and seclude myself with this man that I was warned against. The witnesses will make a whole scene out of it. They're going to go to court. They're going to tell. And ultimately, my husband's not going to be able to have relations with me until I drink the Saita water. And then I'm going to go drink the Saita water, and I'll get pregnant. That's the blessing. It says in the Torah that if v'niksa v'nizra zera, it says if she's innocent,
Then
v'nizra zera, she will have a child.
okay.
So now I have a way to manipulate the system. I will get a child, so to speak. It's in the Torah that you're blessed with a child. So she's figuring out this way to do this. Yes, Edith.
Why is there nothing equivalent for men? Because I mean, if she was guilty, she was guilty with someone.
So the law is that both her and the man would get the death penalty if there's actually if they're found to have relations. If a man has relations with a married woman, both of them get the death penalty. That's that's adultery. That's one of the big three sins: killing, murder, adultery, and idolatry are the three big sins.
So does he stand trial? And she just has
and her
social
would
work?
both, yeah, both him and her would get the death penalty. Here we're talking about a scenario.
Rebbe, I think
Yeah.
she's asking why there is no similar thing if a woman suspects her husband. And I think
understand,
the
but
answer is that a man is permitted to be with more than one woman. He's permitted to have more than one woman. So you don't have that.
Correct, Isaac. I think it's important to clarify that the sin of living with a married woman is effective on both the man who sins and the woman who sins. So both of them are guilty. But again, the sin is only if the man has relations with a married woman. A married woman is, the man is just as guilty as the woman is.
I think she was asking why there is no similar thing about suspecting your husband.
No, you're right. She's asking that. But
Sota.
my job is not always to answer what they're asking. I have my own agenda. So I want to make
Like a
it
true
clear,
rabbi.
but the reason I'm emphasizing that is because what it clarifies is that they're both in the same
Guilty.
boat and they both get the same punishment. But what is the sin? The sin, as Isaac is saying, is when a married woman has relations with someone not her husband. But that sin is equal. The man who has relations with her and the woman are both going to get that same punishment. So I think that's important to emphasize. In other words, if I just mentioned what Isaac said, then it looks like we only limit women from having affairs. You don't limit men. But the way I explained it, it emphasizes the fact that both would end up getting that death penalty. But at the same time, what you're saying, Isaac, is correct. And that is that a man, according to biblical law, a man is allowed to have two wives. So it's not adultery when he has relations with a single woman. But when he has relations with a married woman, he is in the same boat as that married woman. They both did a terrible sin of adultery. Okay, so here Chana is trying to have a child, and she's saying, Hashem, if you don't give me a child through my prayer, then I'll use the laws of Saita to get a child. And the Gemara asks a question on this and says, not everyone agrees with this. Not everyone agrees that this will bless you with a child. Hanichol Amanda Amar, this goes good according to the opinion. Im haisa akara nifkedes, if she is a akara, if she doesn't have any children.
I'm sorry. I'm fertile, not fertile.
Barren.
Okay, thank you, Reb Shlomo Yosef. If she's akara, infertile, then nifkedes, she will have a child. Shapir, that goes good according to that view. That goes good according to that view. That this way, Chana will now use the laws of Saita to be forced to have a child. Ella, but the Manda Amar, according to the opinion of Haisa Yoledas Bitsar, if she gives birth in pain, Yoledas Berevach, she will now give birth with pleasantness, with revach, with space, without pain. Nekevos, if she only gave birth to female children, Yoledes Zecharim, now she will have male children. Shechayrim, if she only gave birth to dark children, Yoledes Levanim, she will give birth to white children. Kitsarim, if she only gave birth to short kids, Yoledes Aruchim, she will now give birth to tall children. So according to that opinion doesn't hold that if she never had children, if she's infertile, that she will now be blessed with a child. That opinion says she will just be blessed with better children than she originally had. She'll have blessing within her children, but it's not going to actually change her nature from being infertile to actually be able to have a child. So according to that opinion, my Ikal Meimar, how are you going to explain the extra word Imra'oi Tira? In other words, the first opinion says Imra'oi Tira fits. Imra'oi, if you see my pain, my suffering, you bless me with a child, good. And if not, Tira, then you will see that I'm going to do this and I'm going to be able to use the Saita laws to have a child. According to the other opinion, that the Saita laws don't bless someone who is unable to have children. It's not going to bless them to be able now miraculously be able to have a child. But what it will do is it'll make someone who has children already, and they weren't blessed with beauty, that now they will be blessed with more handsomeness or beauty, or male children instead of female, so on. And so that would work. But she is missing the ability. She doesn't have she's infertile. So what's going to happen with her? So according to that opinion, how are you going to translate the word tira? And now the Gemara brings a brisa that explains these two views. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say I never see it in other languages that you double up, like botavo or lech telech, haloch telech. Ra'ot tir'eh. Ra'ot tir'eh is seeing you'll see.
Right. So there
but
is
you
two
don't hear
opinions
it in other languages.
Right. There are two opinions throughout the Talmud. One opinion is Dibra Torah Koloshen B'nei Adam. The Torah speaks in the way people speak Hebrew, and in the Hebrew language, that's a common way of speaking. And therefore, the Torah speaks in that language the way people normally use it. And therefore, you don't learn something from a double language. According to the other opinion is you definitely learn something from the fact that the Torah is redundant by using this extra word, and there's something to learn something. There's a reason to learn something from it. So that's the common argument throughout the Talmud explaining these double words. But you have it numerous times in the Torah. Shaleach to shalach. Right? There's numerous times.
For the bird from the nest.
Yeah. So there's numerous times where it says numerous times it says.
That's what I'm saying.
Double
Hebrew
language.
is the only language that I hear.
Aser to aser.
Thank you. Yes, aser to aser. Yes, Susan.
Are you talking about an idioms in Hebrew? Is that what you're speaking about?
Yes. Yes.
Well, it's a short idiom, it's only 2 words.
Well,
But it's
yeah,
something that's not really translatable.
it's a
Translated as
style.
surely.
Say it
It's a
again.
style throughout the Torah, throughout the written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, that you see a lot of times it mentions a word double. It uses a double language.
For emphasis.
Okay, all right.
So
Thank
the
you.
question is is it teaching us a lesson, or is that just a common way of speaking the Hebrew language? That when you're, that when you want to say something, you can, it's common for people to use a double language in Hebrew. So let's see. So the Gemara brings the Brisa. The Gemara brings this statement that explains the 2 views regarding Saita, if it will make a infertile woman have children. The Tanya, because we learned in a Brisa, and now we're about 7 lines, 7th wide line, the 7th wide line. V'niksa v'nizra zera. It says, and she is naki, niksa, she is clean. V'nizra zera, and she will have a child. Milamed, that teaches us, shem haisa akara, if she was infertile, nifkedes, she will be blessed, she will be remembered with a child. She will be blessed with a child. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael, these are the words of Rabbi Yishmael. Amar le Rabbi Akiva, so guess what Rabbi Akiva tells Rabbi Yishmael? Rabbi Akiva tells him, Im kain, if so, yelchu kol ha'akarois kulon v'yistatru. All the women that are infertile, they will go and seclude themselves with a man, and they will be blessed with children. Vizu shaloi kilkala, and this woman who doesn't do that, now the word should be nifsedes, she's going to lose out if a woman doesn't. So in other words, Rabbi Yishmael, you're saying that if a woman is infertile, she can have a child if she does this sin by secluding herself with a man, and then she gets warned, and then she drinks the Saita water, and she will be blessed with a child. Is that so? Then what are you saying? That let it, everyone will do that. In a woman who doesn't do it because she wants to be more sincere, a woman who doesn't do that, she's going to lose out because she didn't sin. She didn't. Ella, rather, Rabbi Akiva says that's not true. A woman who's infertile is not going to be blessed with a child. The Nizra Zera does not mean literally. It means she will have a better child. Melamed Shem Haisa Yeledes B'tzar. It teaches us that if she was giving birth in pain, Yeledes Berevach, she will give birth not in pain. Kitsarim, if she was giving birth to short children, Yeledes Arucham, she will give birth to tall children. Shechayrim, if she was giving birth before to dark children or black children, she Yeledes Levanim, she will give birth to white children. Echad, if she was giving birth only to one child at a time, Yeledes Shnayim, she will have twins. So the Gemara says, according to this opinion, Mayim Roi Tira. So what does it mean? If you will surely see. What is Chana saying when she said Imroi Tira? So the Gemara answers, Dibra Torah Kiloshain B'nei Adam. The Gemara says that opinion follows the view that the Torah speaks in the language of man. Yes, David.
Yeah, Rabbi Akiva's objection is still standing because all these people that wanted to have tall children and fair children and strong children, they're going to also put themselves in this situation in order to get this blessing. It's just not the blessing of having children, it's the blessing of the other things. So his So yeah, that's my statement.
Good question. Very good question. I saw it in one of the commentaries asked that question. Anyone want to answer, David? Any thoughts on that? Rabbi Akiva doesn't like Rabbi Yishmael's claim because he says then anyone that has this problem is gonna go and do this stira, do this will seclude themselves. So what does he say? Instead, if you seclude yourself, you will be blessed with better children, but you won't. Infertile woman won't get pregnant, but other problems will work. So David's asking. So all these people are going to go and seclude themselves.
No,
What do you think, Susan?
absolutely not, because it's a sin.
I think we have a cost-benefit analysis here.
It's a sin what she's doing to be a married woman and be in seclusion with another man with witnesses. Come on, no, that's because no.
So you're saying that
I don't think it's
a person would do this if they didn't have any kids because they really want a child.
If they were desperate and they're 40 years old, maybe.
Right. But
Right,
because just to have a nicer looking child.
No, we don't
Right,
think
okay.
like that. I mean, I don't.
Right.
think
In other
that.
words, they're not desperate enough. That's what the answer that I saw in the commentaries. So
That's what
it's a
I-
good question, David. Thank you, Susan. You came up with a very good answer. That's what I saw in
No,
the
it's such a
commentaries.
great answer, but it's
Well-
from my heart. No,
What were you thinking, Isaac? What were you saying?
No, I said exactly the same, that it's a
Ah.
cost-benefit analysis. I mean, it still was a big deal. They would,
Right.
people would know about it, and there is a shaming, and there's a whole procedure here. And, okay, your child, isn't tall enough. Like my wife always says, her mother once hung up a bar across the door and said, "Here, hang, you'll stretch a little bit."
Right. So okay, good. So the only thing is that this really takes us into another question, and that is that what Hannah is about to do is she doing a sin. We know that there's a prohibition of yichud,
Yeah.
of going into a secluded area with another, a woman is not allowed to enter a secluded area with a man is not allowed to enter a secluded area with a woman. It's called the Isser prohibition of yichud, of being secluded with with someone of the other sex. And even if you don't sin, but simply being secluded is called yichud and is a prohibition. And so what is Hannah really saying? She's going to do this sin. She's not going to have relations, but still, yichud is a sin. How would she even think of doing this she's a prophetess. She's going to go and do a sin of yichud in order to have a child? So that's really a very strong question. And many of the commentaries they struggle to figure out what is she going to do. In other words, Rabbi Akiva's question to Rabbi Yishmael is that some people, that's not that's not surprising. There are going to be people who will sin in order to have a child. But the fact that Hannah's going to do it, that's what's really surprising. Yes, Ezra.
So how do you then answer the situation with Rivka? I mean, what? Not Rivka. I'm sorry. With Rachel, when she says to her husband Yaakov, so give me children, because if I don't have children, I'm dead. So here, Hannah is basically saying the same thing. I'll be dead either way. Either I'll be dead because they will assume that I am whatever I am, and so therefore I will be killed if it turns out to be true, and I'll be dead the other way, even if it turns out that it's not true. if Hashem doesn't step in and do something, I'm dead. And for all intents and purposes, so what's the point of my existence?
So you're correct what you're saying, that she is, she feels like she's, and especially the next piece of Gemara also mentions a similar idea to what you're saying, Ezra. But the question still is she really saying that she's going to do a sin? In other words, I understand that some people feel like they're dead. Unfortunately, it's part of the, it's one of those feelings that people, whenever you fail something, it's a common feeling. What have I accomplished? And you have that feeling, and some people feel it worse than others, and some people have it more than others, and so on. And some people, especially if someone's really depressed and they really feel they haven't accomplished anything in life, or we're supposed to feel that before Hashem, like, what have we done? What are we? We've done nothing. So it is in a certain sense, it's a feeling that, everyone, it's that feeling of awe before Hashem. Like, what do I have? I'm really have accomplished nothing. But in any event, she feels dead. But at the same time, I mean, she is a prophetess, and we follow the Torah, and we try to. We hope that we hope that Hashem will help us in all of our tzaras, and will help. She hopes that Hashem will help her out, but she's not going to go sin because of that feeling. So I'm not really sure. Did I answer your question, Ezra, or did I miss the question? Like, I'm not sure what the question specifically is. I understand she feels dead and she really wants a child.
So, if we're talking about the cost-benefit analysis, as described before, in her mind, she doesn't have any children. She has nothing to lose.
But she's going to sin. How about the next world?
So therefore, if that's what's needed to happen to force Hashem's hand, then that's what she may do, and that's why she says what she says.
So what you're saying is that she is, although she's very righteous, but because this means so much to her, she is willing to do a smaller sin in order to get what she wants. A relatively smaller. She's not doing one of the three major sins, but it's definitely a sin, yichud. But you're saying she is. You understand that she would be willing to do that because it's so important to her. That's yes. Is that what you're? That's the way you see it.
Yeah.
Even though it's a sin, it's clearly prohibited.
Yes.
But you think that she would do that because it's so. It really is it definitely. Listen, have a child is a huge. Right, not having children and to have a child is definitely a huge, huge thing.
Reread
right.
her entire statement.
Right, how bitter she was, for
how
sure.
How bitter she was, and the fact that in comparison to a woman who has so much, it wasn't very important to her.
But what about Avraham? Would you say Avraham would have done a similar, would do a sin to have a child? Avraham and Sarah, would you think they would also sin?
They were different characters. I mean, Avraham could have said, this entire rechush gadol, and all these nefesh she'asiti b'hara, all those things, those could be, those to me might be what I have accomplished. But it wasn't good enough for Hashem. Hashem was going to it tells him, you will have a child who will be your offspring and who will continue whatever you have to do.
Right.
Hannah didn't have those things.
Right. So I agree with you that she was extremely bitter, but I disagree with you that I don't think she would have sinned if it was a sin. So that's my take. But I hear you. I agree with you. The intensity of her bitterness is huge. It's beyond what anyone can know, and anyone who doesn't feel that, can't really relate to it, can't really have a say in this. But for sure, the intensity is huge, but at the same time, knowing the holiness of who Chana was, I don't think we're allowed to assume that she would have agreed to sin to get what she wanted. That's my understanding. Yes, Ben.
From the first time I heard that sentence, I always thought, she's a righteous woman. How dare she blackmail God? Because she even if she's not meaning to do the sin, she's trying to blackmail God to give her a child.
Okay, but that's within the rules. Blackmail is it's within the rule. It's not blackmail. It's you call it maybe a loophole or whatever. I wouldn't use the term blackmail, but it's using it's within the system and it fits all the rules of the system. So that's fine. But if it's a sin, that's a problem, and that's what the commentaries struggle with.
Yeah.
So to answer this question, there are a number of answers. One answer is, the simple answer is that she was saying this, but not really ready to do it. She wasn't going to sin, but she was more asking Hashem that, I could do this. Can't you give me give me a child, because, I really could do this and would get a child. In other words, she was using a method, a mechanism of showing Hashem that, it would only be right if you gave me a child, because I'm going to be righteous, but that I could easily just do this and have a child with no problem. And I'm not, but I shouldn't lose out because I could have done that. So it was really more of a verbal request than a actual plan of sinning. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that there is a difference between the laws of yichud and the laws of stira. And this is very interesting. What does that mean? That means a husband could warn his wife and tell her, do not hang out with those two guys that always hang out together. Yankel and Shmerel always hang out together. And I see that sometimes you like schmoozing with them. I don't want you hanging out with Yankel and Shmerel. So she is warned from her husband not to hang out with two men. Now, according to Jewish law, if these two men are not sinners, then she would be allowed to seclude herself with two men, because only one man, there's rules about how many women, how many men. There are different rules when it comes to these laws. But when it comes to the laws of stira and warning, when a husband warns his wife, that warning applies even if there's no prohibition of yichud, because it's not only with one man. The law of secluding oneself would apply, and therefore, if her husband warned her, said, don't hang out with Yankel and Shmerel, and she goes and hangs out when Yankel and Shmerel are together, and she hangs out with them, and therefore she has transgressed his warning, but she has not transgressed the law of yichud. And because of that, what happens is he will take her. There's witnesses that she secluded herself with two men. He will take her to the Beis Hamikdash, they'll bring the sacrifice, they'll give her to drink, but she never sinned with the law of yichud. She transgressed her husband's warning, but she didn't transgress a law of yichud, of having seclusion, because the law of seclusion is not the same as the law of yichud. The seclusion is not the same as the law of warnings and the stira with regard to a husband and wife. So therefore, there is a way that she could do it that's even permissible. That is one answer. There is another answer. Not everyone agrees with this, but there is a very innovative answer, and it's discussed at length, and that is, and it boils down to a question of, does the law of yichud apply if there is a camera? If there's a video camera that's videoing everything. And later on, it could be checked out. It could be looked at later on, and you will find out what happened later on. Is that called seclusion? In other words, seclusion normally means that you're alone with this other person and no one is able to see what's going on. Now, if there is a camera, and the camera will be able to tell us later, we'll be able to download the file and we'll be able to see what happened, is that called seclusion? And that could be a room to explain this situation here. Why? This is very innovative. The idea is, what happens when a woman drinks this water? It will reveal to us if they sinned. So when a woman goes and secludes herself after she's warned, she will potentially it will be revealed if she sins with this man or not, because she will be drinking that water, and that water will reveal something that happened in that room. It will reveal either she sinned or she didn't sin. So because she's going to drink the water later, so that seclusion is not prohibited as part of yichud, because it will become revealed if she actually sinned or not. The whole concept of being secluded with someone from the other sex is only if it's not going to be revealed later, and that means that it will, you entered a secluded area. It's really secluded. But if something that's going to be revealed, so it's not considered secluded really, because other people will see what happened. If that's true, so in other words, if there is a way to find out what happened in that room, then that's not called going into a secluded area, because it's going to be revealed. So here, where she's involved in already a situation where she was warned, which means that she's going to end up drinking the water if she goes into this secluded area, that is not called the prohibition of yichud. She is not transgressing. This is unbelievable. She's not transgressing the prohibition of yichud, because she'll end up drinking the water and it will reveal what happened in that room. And so she never was alone, secluded with this man in a way that she might have sinned, because there's someone else watching, so to speak. It's going to be revealed what happened. That's not called secluded. So it could be that after a woman is warned about secluding herself, it could be that her seclusion afterwards is not prohibited as yichud, because she will end up drinking the water and it won't be a prohibition of yichud. So that is one way of answering it. And what comes out from that is, nowadays there might be room for leniency if you go into an office, but there is a video camera. This would be the source of permitting such a thing. If there's a video camera, that it will be revealed what happened in that room, so then you did not transgress the law of yichud. So in other words, this answer to our Gemara ends up having a halachic ramification with regard to entering a meeting in a room that has a security camera, that even though there's no security person seeing it now, if someone's seeing it now, is much more room for leniency. There's someone watching you. That's much more. But let's say it's not in such a way. Let's say it's just a camera that records and no one's watching it. But since it will be recorded, could be revealed, therefore it could be considered that you did not transgress the law of secluding oneself. Yes, Susan.
If a husband tells a wife, I don't want you going to talk to the rabbi about our personal problems.
That talking is not a prohibition. It's secluding oneself.
Okay.
I don't want you secluding
I don't want you to
yourself.
have a private conversation with the rabbi about our
but
intimate
private
problems.
conversation could be on the phone. These are not warnings. The warning has to be, I don't want you secluding yourself in a room with this man, whatever man it is. And it could include a rabbi. That's right. It could be part of, I don't want you secluding yourself with the rabbi. That would be a problem. That would be a problem if she does, and then there's witnesses, and then she can't drink the Saita water, and then the husband will not be able to have relations with the wife.
So it still holds true.
It
that if
holds
a
true
husband-
nowadays. It's just you have to know how to word it. But
Yeah.
speaking with someone is not part of the warning. It's not part of it. Yes, Ben.
Okay.
Setter is really a little bit more than just secluding, it's hiding. You go into a hiding place. You
And
seclude
what
in a
happens if you
hiding-
don't? What happens if you just lock the door of an office and you don't go into a hiding place?
Well, that's hiding. You lock the door in the
So
office.
then it's the same. So then it's not whatever it is. It's secluding. Secluding and hiding is the same thing, I guess. Whatever it is, you close the door, you're in. That's it. Especially if you lock the door. Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Rabbi Akiva can say what he's saying when it's the opposite of what the pasuk says. The verse says that she shall be acquitted and she shall conceive. So that's pretty straightforward. So how can he say that it doesn't really mean conceive? It means better children, taller children.
So I'm not sure if this is this is correct, but I would guess that maybe he's learning it from the fact that it uses a double language also, Vinizra Azera. So maybe that is a hint to the fact that that it doesn't mean it literally. But a place to a possible source for that would be the Torah Tamima. He might explain how Rabbi Akiva learns that. We're V'niksa v'nizra zera. Let's see where that verse is in Bamidbar Hey. 1 second.
It's 5:28, verse 28.
Yeah. So
Not sure. Oh. But probably. Get stuck on it.
yeah, I don't see it here. I mean, it's a good question. Like, how does he literally, how does he learn it? It's also Gemara in Saita on page 26. So I guess we could look it up there and see if anyone like explains how he fits it into the words. But I mean, obviously you could push it in and say, it's V'niksa v'nizra zera. She will have better children. V'nizra zera, could mean better children, but literally it doesn't seem to fit. So you have a good question. If we can, we'll have to see if any of the commentaries. Anyway, it's these are the two views. Yes.
I had another question also. All these women that might seclude themselves in order to get the blessing to have children, that may be their intention. But what about the man? The man may change his mind once he's secluded with her and not want to be innocent. In other words, he may be willing to sin, whereas she doesn't want to sin. She wants to have children from this seclusion, but the man may have different intentions, and nobody's addressing that.
Well, I would not suggest that she does this trick with someone who's a rapist. You know what I mean? She should pick the man she's going to do it, not obviously not someone who's going to, rape her. So, right? So I don't think that's such an issue, Okay, so let's see. It's 10:56.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Rabbi, I don't think that she was just saying this to God with the intention of not doing that. I think she was already considering it, because she was desperate and she would do whatever was within the limits of still being okay. And I think she would have acted on it. Otherwise, it would be like lying, saying, oh, I can do this and not follow through.
So some commentaries learn like you. Other commentaries learn that it was more of a you're not wrong. There's commentaries that learn like you're saying, and other commentaries learn it the other way. But the main point is that they can't imagine that she would have actually sinned. That's the main point, that they can't imagine that she would have actually sinned just to have a child, even though it means the world to them. Just to have a child, I can understand someone maybe will rely on some lenient view or something like that, but to sin, Chana is not going to sin. And even to rely on a lenient view, I don't know, Chana is such a holy person, but in any event, that's the main point, is that there has to be some answer, some way of explaining how she was going to do this and not transgress the yichud prohibition.
I think she thought that in the end, she comes out innocent. So, I mean, she's not actually going to do.
No, the prohibition of yichud is not if you have relations. Yichud means you're not allowed to seclude yourself. That prohibition, a person transgresses whether they have sex or they don't. They transgress that sin. That has nothing to do with, if they're yichud, they've sinned already. The sin has been done already. Even if they didn't have any intimacy. The sin was done by just entering a secluded area.
But if she's saying this, then she's already thinking it. The thought is already there for her. It's like how far she will go, and would she? And so to just say it without meaning it, I mean, isn't that
No. It doesn't mean she was joking. It means she's saying this idea to God that, I could have done that and I'm not. That's what she's saying to Hashem. That according to that understanding, she's not just I'm going to do this, and I'm really not. She's not saying that to Hashem. She's saying, if I wanted to, I could do this. Tira. All she said was one word. You have to keep in mind. All she said was one word, Tira. And the rest is her thought. So we're figuring out her thought. What was the word she said? She said one word, Tira. Imra'ai Tira. And now we're explaining what she thought. Right? So what did she think? Either I could have done this and Hashem would have blessed me. Therefore, I'm not going to, and for sure you should bless me. Or I will do this in a way that's permissible. However you want to learn it. All she said was one word, Tira. And we're extrapolating what that, how to translate that extra word. Yes,
Rabbi?
Susan. Just 1 second, Phyllis. I think Susan had a question. Susan?
I guess, was this whole discussion about being infertile, is it someplace else in the Torah that gives an idea of if a woman is infertile, what to do?
Does it say what to do if a woman is infertile?
Does it have instructions on any kind of instructions on
nothing that I can think of that's directly. There's three things. There are three things. Being careful about lighting Shabbos candles, being careful of the laws of Nida, which are the laws of family purity and going to the mikvah and so on, and being careful about separating challah. Those three things are very significant in being blessed with children. Yeah, Isaac, did you want to say something, Isaac?
I have a question.
Okay, just 1 second. I think Isaac wanted to say something on that. Isaac?
No, it was Ben.
No, just that there's nothing expressly what to do. These are all rabbinical things of what could happen. But she's right. There is nothing in the Torah that says, if you are infertile, here's what you do.
But
So this is the only reference to being
Excuse me,
infertile.
I have a question.
But it says about Isaac that he prayed and that changed.
Right. Correct. Ben is saying a very important thing, that prayer is number one. Prayer is number one.
Yes.
Okay, Phyllis, what did you want to say?
Yes.